Yeah.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. If you would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'd like to ask retired Lieutenant James Baldwin to lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Trustee Burt, present. Trustee Fambro is absent. Treasurer Anderson, present. Supervisor Miller,
Here.
Clerk Triplett here. Trustee Clee,
Yes, ma'am.
and
Present.
Trustee Campbell absent.
Do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Are you going to pull those?
Yeah, we're gonna, action item E and F, we're gonna postpone those till the next meeting. They'll come back at the next meeting. All right. We're on to the approval of the minutes. For the minutes of the regular meeting, September 19th. Does anybody have any corrections or changes?
Oh, ma'am.
All those in favor of approving the minutes from the regular meeting of September 19th signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? For the meeting,
I want to abstain, actually. I was not at the September 19th meeting.
mark that down, will you?
Okay.
Staying there.
Alrighty, so for the second set of minutes from the special meeting of September 26th, are there any corrections?
See any?
No? All those in favor of approving the minutes from the special meeting September 26th signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Me.
Me. Move on to presentations. We have a proclamation for Lieutenant James Baldwin. Can I have Chief Salter come to the center?
Jim, if you please come up here.
Take pictures.
There it is.
I'll wait till you're done.
I've never seen. So, I'll read the board proclamation. Whereas Lieutenant James Baldwin served the citizens of the Charter Township of Flint as a dependable, thoughtful employee during his 25-plus years as a police officer. Whereas Lieutenant Baldwin was most recently assigned as an administrative lieutenant, serving a vital part in the day-to-day operations of the police department. And whereas Lieutenant Baldwin has served in a variety of assignments throughout his career, serving as a road patrol officer, community police officer, DARE officer, school resource officer, detective, IRT sniper, patrol sergeant, detective sergeant, and operations lieutenant. Wow. Whereas Lieutenant Baldwin was known for his reliability, jovial attitude, technical savvy, trustworthiness, and his positive interactions with the township board. Whereas Lieutenant Baldwin received numerous letters of appreciation, letters of commendation, and several unit citations for professional excellence. And whereas the Charter Township of Flint wishes to publicly recognize the significant contributions of Lieutenant Baldwin to the Flint Township community, now therefore the Board of Trustees of the Charter Township of Flint, on behalf of the staff and residents, do hereby issue this proclamation to honor Lieutenant James Baldwin and recognize his time and dedication to the Charter Township of Flint Police Department. Thank you.
It's my turn. This is a tradition that started a long time ago with Chief Sibbert, who was in attendance. Thank you guys for coming, retirees. Jim and I worked together for a long time. So every day I've been working here, of course he's been here, except for the last 30 days, which is different for me, I'm sure, for the rest of the department. I always say, or a month ago I said, it takes a special person to become a cop. But it takes a even more special person to work 25 years and be successful like you are. In addition to what you did, it takes more than just you, it's your family that's here. And thank you for letting them serve the township for 25 years. Without you guys, of course, he couldn't be who he is today without the kids that are here. So I want to say thank you, Jim, as a friend. And I'm going to miss you. I know the guys, I'll miss you. So again, congratulations. You want to say something real quick? Sure,
You want to tell us what he gets?
Oh, I'm sorry. Of course, he gets this more work at home. He gets his retiree badge. And of course, this is a handgun that he carried in appreciation for over 25 years of honorable and dedicated service for the Charter Township of Flint. Lieutenant James Baldwin served 1997 to 2022, Charter Township of Flint Police Department.
Did you have anything to say?
Sure, I'll just say something very quickly. I appreciate the support of my family, of the township board, Chief Salter, Chief Sippert, and all of the police officers and support staff that I worked with for over 25 years. It's weird. I've been gone been away from the township now for just over a month. And it's weird when you step away from a place that you worked for that long. And I just appreciated the support from all those people and probably more. And if I forgot you, the people I worked with were all important to me. So I appreciate the support that I had, and it was a great place to work.
Thank you.
Thank And my mom's here today too.
All right.
This is, come on. This is my wife, Rachel, twin daughters, Abby and Katie, son Andrew, mom Debbie, and our son Caleb is away at college, so he couldn't be here today. So.
Great. So we'll take a picture, and then I know the police officer's gonna come up and we'll take a picture, and then we'll invite everybody to celebrate with cake and coffee, and then we'll take a few minutes break.
JB, why don't you get in the middle? Move over in the middle. Yeah, show the gun in the front. There you go.
That's nice.
Still can take order.
Where do we look?
Right in, cheese.
Too many cameras.
Get in.
Great. And if the police officers can come up.
Good job, family.
He's older.
How's your school?
You're gonna have to squeeze together a bit more. Yeah, sir.
Mind your weight. Terry, am I okay here?
Can you fit him in, or they need to get closer, Tom?
Well, Tom needs to suck in the gut. Oh.
Which Tom?
Ride, not Fleet. Got a couple of good ones.
He's gonna.
This side, I forgot. Kind of all when step over.
This way.
Yeah. So that we can see, yeah, so we can see John.
righty.
Hi, how are you?
Thanks everybody for coming, of course, all retirees. Now you got one more member to your family. It's still a big family, this is party family. Again, we got some cake and refreshments in the back. So we take 5 minutes, if that's okay?
How's it going?
know, that should have been.
You would say that because Kim used to say it. I'd like to call the meeting back to order. Ready?
Yep.
So just to take care of some housekeeping, we need to approve the proclamation.
Clea would move that we approve the proclamation for the retirement of Lieutenant James Baldwin.
Is there a second to the motion?
Anderson supports.
Any discussion? Anybody had anything to say?
We probably can't negate that, right? I didn't think so. Just thought I'd ask. I know he's out of the room now, but I just thought I'd ask.
Jim Baldwin did a really good job serving the township, the schools, all our residents. I think everybody in the room knew him. And George Sippert, our former chief, did a good job training him as he was coming up the ranks. It was nice to see him here too. We're gonna miss him. Well, we do.
I have a story about JB.
Is it short?
It is. It's very short. When he was a resource officer, he would come by my room all the time during lunch. And there was one day that 4 of the seniors got together with him, and you know those tall garbage cans? Well, I was standing by one by my door, and JB walked around, and 2 of the seniors were kind of made a backstop, and JB went, whoop, and I went feet and legs into that chair, into that garbage can. They picked it up, sat it out in the hall, bell rang, and all the kids are passing as Clee's stuck down in the garbage can. And JB is just standing there looking around, and so are those kids. Still picks on me about that one.
Good guy.
He's a good man.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the motion for the proclamation for the retirement of Lieutenant James Baldwin, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Alrighty, we move on to presentation number 2, Forward Together presentation. We have, well, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thank you. My name is Christina Johnston. I'm from the Flint and Genesee Group, and I'm here to share some economic data with you, but also to kind of catch you up on a project that we started a few years back, and some of the folks from Flint Township were a part of that, and so we want to thank you and share with you some of the results and movement that's happened since we started this project. So, little background, I mentioned that I am from the Flint and Genesee Group. That is formerly known as the Flint and Genesee Chamber of Commerce. We've recently rebranded, and so we are the group that encompasses 4 divisions. The Chamber, as people have already known us, Explore Flint and Genesee, which is the Convention and Visitors Bureau, Flint and Genesee Education and Talent, and Flint and Genesee Economic Alliance. So under those 4 divisions, we are all seeing ourselves connecting to economic development and helping move our community forward by influencing positivity in the business, talent, and place realms, all of which come together to create what we see as our economy. So in that work, we hear a lot from folks. And for a while we've been hearing, you know, our community really has a lot of people that work in economic development, but we don't always know that we're all headed in the same directions. Everybody's kind of moving around and doing their piece of it. But how can we create a common vision for economic development? And so we spent some time thinking that through, and we knew at the Flint and Genesee Group that we ourselves could not be the owner of a vision. We couldn't even be the driver on our own. And coincidentally, there was some planning work being done with Genesee County as well as the city of Flint. And we thought, why don't we align and do our plans together? And hence we have Forward Together. And we spent some time certainly looking at data about our community. I'm going to share a little bit of that with you, but also listening to folks, doing focus groups from all over the county. And also we convened a community summit that had 250, 300 people attending, and they provided all kinds of insights on what success looked like for our community. So I'm here today to share with you an update. Unfortunately, all of this planning and all this effort came together and finalized in July of 2020, which might be the worst time to ever launch and roll out something publicly. And so we had to kind of do a little soft launch, and we really didn't get the fanfare that we wanted. But now we're farther along, of course, glad to be with you and to present what we saw then and what we're seeing now in terms of economic movement. Let me go to the next slide. So what was that vision? So It was difficult to have a lot of voices at the table and finalize one common vision. But what we landed on was that in 2040, Genesee County would be a top 5 community in Michigan based on jobs, talent, livability, and equity. And why top 5? Genesee County is actually the 5th most populous county out of 83 counties in the state of Michigan. And so as we looked at ourselves, as we compared to other counties in the state, we wanted to see how did we rank? Did we fall into that top 5? Do we live into that top 5-ness that we sit in population? So I'm going to start with next steps because I said we tried to launch in 2020, and this would have been my final slide that said, now we've got this plan and here's what we do. And at that time, we would have said we're going to work the strategies, we're going to track our progress, and we're going to adapt and readjust. And we are at the stage where we've been working some strategies. Got a long horizon. 2040 is a long ways out, and we're just heading into this work. So there's a lot that can happen there. We're tracking progress. That's what I'm going to share with you today. And my hope is that you, as decision makers in your community, can use this data to inform your decisions and help you see where you fit into this plan and this vision going forward. Up there is the website. I encourage you to take a look at that if you ever want to go in and see more about the process, who is involved. We have a data fact book that's pretty robust with information about our county. Okay, next slide. There were 6 strategies. So when I say work the strategies, what do I mean? What are those strategies? There were 6 areas that we identified that were mostly a menu. I wouldn't say they were an exact plan. Nothing really that we said we have to do these things in order to result in these results. So I'm going to give you some of those categories, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because there's still a lot of work and a lot of opportunity to create more efforts in these spaces. So turning community challenges into economic opportunities, continuing to focus on business attraction and retention, evaluating and expanding tourism options, growing and coordinating community programs, building great places, that's where a lot of our municipalities come in, and investing in 21st century economic infrastructure. We're all seeing new opportunities with ARPA funding coming to our community to take that to investment into those infrastructure spaces that would make us a place where businesses want to come and where they can grow. So those are the 6 areas. There's certainly been a lot of work by, I know, my organization as well as our partners and many others, including the municipalities. I've been so far to, I can't count anymore. I've been to a lot of communities already across the county and plan to reach out to as many of those as will listen. This is really about the county and where we sit and giving context for each municipality amongst the entire county. You can go to the next slide. Okay, this is where I'm going to spend the most time. This is our dashboard. So when we were trying to figure out top 5, well, top 5 in what? What did that mean? And what are the metrics that we can measure ourselves against that would tell us about our economic prosperity and where we sit? We decided on 5 specific metrics. So average wages, net in-migration, educational achievement, and gross domestic product growth rate, different than just GDP, and family poverty rate. So you'll notice a few things about this slide. The dates may be different. We get the most recent information we can, but not every data set is the same. So you might notice that, as well as in the more recent, the now numbers. Those also might not all gel with each other, but they are the most recent data sets that we can collect. So I'm going to start with average wages. So in 2019, the average wage for workers in Genesee County was $879 per week. That put us at 22nd out of 83 counties in the state. And now in 2021, we're seeing ourselves at $957 per week on average. So this is good movement. We've come up a bit in that ranking, or in that number, but you'll notice that the ranking declined. So when we see ourselves moving up, and that feels like progress, this contextualization that we've done by ranking ourselves against the other counties helps you understand that that doesn't mean we're keeping up. So other counties in the state of Michigan are growing faster in terms of average wages. So that's just something that you'll hear as an ongoing trend in this presentation. To give you a little context, who was in top 5? Oakland County, Wayne County, Washtenaw County, Midland County, Macomb County. And little point of optimism, to be at that number 5, to reach Macomb County, we would only need to add about $203 per week to get to top 5. And we have to hope none of them grow a whole lot faster and keep that pace with us. But this is attainable. When we attract businesses that pay higher wages and that we're growing in those senses, we could see ourselves moving up in those rankings and in those wages. So net in-migration. In 2018, we were seeing a loss of about 1,000 people in Genesee County. So this is not population, this is net in-migration. This is the number of people coming and going from our community. And that put us at 78th out of 83 counties. And I'll make a note that the state of Michigan and the country is not very good for net in-migration. Genesee County is in the bottom rankings for the counties of those 83 counties. And from a time span, when we looked at this data again, some data sets have changed. From 2016 to 2019, that loss looks like 2,920 people. Loss of population or loss of these working age people is probably one of the largest threats to our economy. Many of you work in places that have struggled to attract talent, to keep talent. It's getting very competitive. It will drive wages up when that happens. But you'll also see that we maintain that ranking of 78th. We are not making positive movement. And it really talks about place, about how municipalities, how you volunteer in your parade, how all of us have a role in helping make this a great place where people want to live and to say great things about this community so that we can attract people here. Net in-migration, how does this look in other communities? Number 1 is Livingston County, which is not very far away, so that's interesting. Ottawa, Allegan, Barrie, and Grand Traverse. Now they're in, of course, a positive movement. We have to just catch up to not losing people before we start looking at that. We would need to gain about 5,000 people to get to number 5. It's a feat. But there are some efforts coming forward. I know my organization looked at this data when we originally launched this plan and have put some investment into talent retention as well as talent attraction. I hope to share more with you about that in the future. But as you make decisions about housing and about livability and the amenities you have in your community, keep these numbers in mind. Educational achievement. In 2018, we were at 31% of our residents over the age of 25 that had a post-secondary degree. By 2020, we gained 1 percentage point, but unfortunately fell in the rankings from 29th to 35th. This is a challenge. Just to give you further context, the state of Michigan has a goal of having 60% of Michiganders with a certification or a post-secondary degree by the year 2030. So we're at 32, and we need to get, hopefully, to catch up to the state to 60%. They have a shorter horizon as well. So there's some work to be done here. Now, this number does not capture certifications, theirs does, so there's a little discrepancy. We're told that you can probably add about 7% to capture certifications. I think Genesee County might be a little higher than the average. We have a lot of jobs that might require those. Nonetheless, we have a lot of movement to make in educational achievement. My sneak peek to you when I get to kind of the final conclusions here is that net in-migration and educational achievement, this is my opinion, but I believe those particular metrics, if we can make influences there, can pull along a whole lot of the rest of the metrics. So other communities with good educational attainment, now I think this is an interesting list. Number 1, Washtenaw County. Number 2, Oakland County. Leelanau County, Kalamazoo, and Grand Traverse. I notice many of these have large universities in them. East Lansing is sort of weird because there's a whole bunch of counties in there, so they would never quite come out in the rankings, but they are also wealthier communities. So if you think about educational attainment tying to wealth and income levels, it makes sense that we're seeing these communities that have a little bit of a higher wealth rate at higher educational rates. Another reason why I would say if we can focus as a community on educational attainment, we can see ourselves grow and pull folks out of poverty. GDP growth rate. This is a growth rate. This is not the same as GDP. So this is how much are we moving. This is the spot where we've had the greatest success as a county in this short amount of time. So from a 1-year time frame, 2017 to 2018, we were only growing at about a 0.88% rate. Put us at 49th out of 83 counties. From 2019 to 2020, so just in that 1 year, we are now seeing a 1.17% increase there, and we were moved from 49th to 20th. So this is one of those spots where we've made the greatest leaps in those rankings, and really speaks, I think, to business growth and kind of the health of those businesses being created and coming to our county. Other communities, I think you'll notice a trend that in that top 5, this is where you see growth rate. Scotia, Ionia, Menominee, Mackinac, and Missaukee. They're little bitty counties. Thinking of us as being number 5 in population and thinking about us having a growth rate that's not so far off from those is really strong. It really shows this is a spot where we are having some gains. Okay, family poverty rate. So in 2017, we were at about 15% of families that were living below the poverty line in Genesee County. That put us at 78th out of 83 counties. This is a spot where a number that decreases is actually a good thing, so you'll see a green arrow pointing down. By 2021, we were at 12.9%. Unfortunately, we slipped to 81st out of 83 counties in the state of Michigan for family poverty rate. That's significant. Other places that are doing well with this, Livingston County, Leelanau, Clinton, Ottawa, and Oakland. So we have a long ways to go. I don't think I need to do the math on how far, and that's why I say having more folks here, driving up those wages, looking at educational achievement, those are the spaces through which we can pull folks out of poverty and make some change in these metrics. Oh, we don't have slides. You should have printouts, and the next one should say community scorecard. So those are the numbers where we rank ourselves. We compare ourselves to other counties and we try to kind of contextualize our information. But we also have a scorecard where we are consistently keeping track of kind of our people and how are people faring, how are things going, what is the movement just within our county. So I'll start with economic mobility. In 2014, 6.8% of the population that was born in the bottom 20% in terms of socioeconomic or income levels was likely to move to the top 20%. So we were at 6.8% could make that movement. That's economic mobility. By 2020, that number decreased to 5.9%. So you're less likely now than you were before to move out of poverty, out of that bottom 20% into the top 20%. Third grade reading proficiency. In 2019, 41.1% of our students in third grade were at a third grade reading proficiency. By 2020, that number was 36.9. This is a number that is reflective not just of reading, it's a reflection of education across the board. Quite often these are indicators of math proficiency, they all kind of fall into place. And often are predictors of the likelihood of a young person to graduate from high school and to go on to achieve at higher post-secondary levels. So when we look at the important influence that educational attainment can have on our economy and watching those wages grow with educational achievement and seeing a proficiency that is a predictor that says we're not headed in the right direction, we have the opportunity now to invest in our schools and invest in interventions that help those kids catch up. The point of optimism I'll give you, I sit as the chair of the steering committee for the Flint and Genesee Literacy Network. We're looking at early childhood numbers and seeing some increases in the number of kids and families taking advantage of subsidy and taking up those spots in early childhood. A lot of policy movement, and if we see that continue to reinforce these young people's education, we should see a rebound by third grade, but we need to catch up with the kids that we're seeing represented right here. Total number of jobs, there was a decline between 2019 and 2020. I'm not terribly concerned about that decline. And I'll tell you that's because we're still hearing about a number of job openings, positions going unfilled. I think many businesses have sort of figured out how to do more with less people. Some folks have automated, some folks have adjusted their hours. And so we're seeing sort of a kind of market change that I don't think is an indication of our economy necessarily. Although I think when those market changes happen, it means that folks might need a little more skill for some of the positions that remain. We're back to educational achievement. Median household income has gone up a little bit from 2018. We were at 48,370 for median household income, and this is again a county number. Moved up to 50,269 by 2020, so we're seeing a little movement there. I do think that that may have been reflective of some stimulus dollars that have come into households, so 2020, hard to say if that's totally reflected in there, but that we could be watching that number and seeing how it moves after those resources have ended. Workforce participation rate, this is another one that feels like a little bit of a predictor here. So in 2018, we were at 58% workforce participation rate. That is not unemployment, those are different numbers. But by 2020, we had gone down to 55.8%. So fewer people were actually seeking and engaging in the workforce that are of that working age. I think that we might be seeing some movement here. My guess is moms, dads staying home with kids who were in a remote learning situation. Maybe the family has decided, they had come to a comfort level of not having two incomes. There's a lot that could be happening in there. And I think as a community, we've got to look at those numbers and try to pull people back into the workforce. SNAP recipient households. So we did see, this is one of those down arrows that's kind of a positive thing. Folks who needed SNAP benefits or took advantage of it. I want to add that little asterisk. We did see a lower number of households receiving those benefits, but I did this presentation at the food bank, and what I heard was, yeah, that's true, but there are a lot of folks who found themselves in a new position of having hunger and need, and this was new to them, and they maybe weren't taking advantage of all of the benefits available to them. There's some points of pride and some things that may have adjusted some of these numbers when different populations needed those benefits. So not sure if that's what we're seeing here, if this is a terribly positive thing, but something notable. And again, we could also be seeing a reflection of some stimulus dollars that had come into households. I save private establishments for last because it's my favorite one. We did see a significant increase in the number of new businesses being created. When we had our consultants working with us, and they came from somewhere else in the country, Ohio, we don't pretend we don't know that, and they were looking at us as compared to many other communities all over the country, and they said, we were doing these interviews with people in Genesee County, and we just kept hearing the words grit and resilience, and I said, I know you hear it, we hear it. I hate that because I never know what that means. I don't know how to quantify that. How do we really prove that to be the case? And they said, you can measure that. They looked at when the economy is down, Genesee County, on average, has more people creating businesses than other places. So we see our community actually kind of pick itself up, and our residents find their own opportunities when times get rough. That felt good to know how we are defining grit and resilience as a community. And we do see that. So in 2020, obviously some challenges to the economy, we saw growth in the number of businesses being created. Now, we've done some further studies on what that looks like. We're seeing a lot of women-owned businesses, maybe for some of those same reasons that we are seeing folks maybe wanting to control their own schedules or having childcare to deal with. So that was something notable, as well as minority-owned businesses. Lots of growth in those spaces. Oh, we don't have slides. So now we're moving on to the key takeaways. And some of this I've sort of cheated and given you some information here, but we would say that the economic growth is evident. So seeing things like the county's gross domestic product growing represents our biggest positive movement in the county rankings of those 5 indicators. But the county's growth is not as fast as other counties in the state. So improvements in average wages, educational attainment, and poverty rate did not result in improved rankings among the 83 counties. So this tells me that we really can't get complacent. When we see movement in the positive direction, we have to contextualize that and see how are we growing as compared to other places. It could be easy to see cranes and see development and movement, housing, but if it's not as fast as everywhere else, we've got some catching up to do. County residents in the lower income brackets are not experiencing economic gains and are on a trajectory to fall farther behind or remain in poverty. So for example, individuals born in that bottom 20% in household income are less likely to improve their economic status than they were in 2014. Third grade reading proficiency has dropped over 10% in just 1 year, which is, again, a predictor of what's to come. And fewer people are participating in the workforce than they did in 2018. So that remains on a downward trend. So the indicators that could change these trends and kind of lift our rankings, again, net in migration, educational achievement, these are my opinions. I want to present data and allow for everyone to draw their own conclusions and dig in further and ask questions, and I love looking into more. But from my perspective, if we can have more people in the county, that's attractive to employers. My organization responds to bids for companies who are looking for new sites. That's part of our job. I'm working with Tracy on a lot of that with Flint Township. And one of the main questions that we get asked and that is considered in those evaluations is, how many people do you have? How educated are they? What is the commuter pattern? How far away are they from where we want to build our business? And so that number of people is really an important factor in attracting business. Again, when you have the companies here and those residents here, they also support the tax base, which gets reinvested in towns, cities, schools, and infrastructure, and in turn improve quality of life. So I'm sure you can all see and feel that on a daily basis. So we really do, as a county, need to see that net in migration change. And when people have higher levels of education, they're more likely to make more money. We are more likely to attract businesses that require higher skilled and therefore higher paying jobs that would come to our county to access that workforce. Average wages would improve, and ultimately household poverty would decline more significantly. So that's why I say more people and more education are key factors in pulling all of the rest of those metrics along. So we have a lot of work to do as a community, and I'm here to not hopefully rain on your parade, but to actually reinforce what you are deciding to do with a lot of resources, with community investments, potentially your strategic plans, all of those pieces. Give you the information that you need to make those decisions and think about how we as a community, as a county, can move to that top 5 status. I get the question a lot from folks, well, can you break down the numbers for my particular community? I'd like to see just my municipality and how we fare. I think we're doing better, or maybe that's a challenge for us. And what I would say is sometimes we can pull that data, sometimes we can't. But on the whole, it's really important to look at the county, because when a business locates in one municipality, it doesn't just employ the folks who live in that vicinity. It employs people from all over, all around. And same goes for those folks. They're going to work in different places, and they may live in your community. So really, the health of any one of our municipalities is dependent upon the health of the others. We're all interconnected, and that's why I'm making the rounds to these municipalities to really make sure that we're all thinking collectively and have a common goal in mind. The last slide is where I started. I leave you with next steps, just where we started. We continue to work strategies at my organization and with many other partners. We continue to track that data, and you can check out the website for all these updates, and we will continue to update this annually. And we will adapt and readjust. When we see this data moving downward or upward, that is our opportunity as a community to make change, to think about policy, to think about programs and interventions for kids, to think about partnerships with each other. And so that's where we are today. And I think that's all I've got for you, but I'm also happy to answer any questions, and hopefully I can.
Do we have any questions?
I just have one quick question.
Sure.
I know you said Tracy Tucker's been at the table and kind of working with that. Are you guys meeting, do you have like a county-wide meeting where representatives can come and kind of have input, ongoing input? Or is this just kind of we'll give you some, we're feeding out, what happens?
Good question. So the plan was actually formed with a steering committee that had representatives from all over the county. Every sector was represented, from public, private, nonprofit, and they guided the process. We also continue to keep them updated. They were one of these meetings we've done. And so there's opportunity, and I think these meetings are the start of continuing conversation I was just chatting with Dom, our Government Affairs Director, to talk about the next steps. Once we've made the rounds with this, what do we do next? How do we have individual meetings and conversations that help kind of put this data to work and put that into play in all of the communities in Genesee County?
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? Down this way, Trustee Burt? No? Well, I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank Dominic Clemens for reaching out. So I know you mentioned it, but you're the County Commission Chairman. And what's the position at Governmental Affairs?
Director of Government Affairs, yeah.
Well, thank you for reaching out and setting this up, making arrangements, and thank you for being here. And we didn't get your, can you introduce?
Oh, this is Mike Nadeo, and so you guys got to be the recording. So we had, as I mentioned, a community summit where we had many public residents involved, and we wanted to be able to report back to them, but didn't quite know how to do that efficiently. And so we thought, let's record one of these meetings and post that online so that everybody can catch up on the data.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Definitely.
It was
Alrighty.
excellent information.
So at this point, we'll move on to public comment. If you'd like to address the board, I'd ask that you come to the podium and just give us your name, and you'll have 4 minutes to address the board.
Kevin Stiff, G4020 Corona Road, the dive shop, and I'm also a resident here in the township. I don't get the opportunity to come to these meetings most of the time because I work later. It was a little more opportunist when it was 7 o'clock at night, not 6. First thing, I'll be positive first. I want to thank Mr. Preston. I'll call him Mr. Preston the first time, and after that I'll call him Jerry. Jerry worked diligently on the name change. Professionally, even when there was some name calling, he stood there and he took it without saying a word. He accepted what everybody had to say. He did a lot of things behind, the doors in his own time and his own money. And everything that he did, I think he did through his heart. I don't think that there was anything for him to gain. And all the arguments, some of the people that were sitting here, the Madam Treasurer, everybody, I didn't hear a single person say, thank you very much, Jerry, for all the work you did. You worked hard. So that's all you're gonna get out of me tonight for that. But, I watched the tape and not happy about it. I worked at trying to get the name change done. I think that we worked on it I think with good motives. Now, I'm not happy that it got turned down. I'm not happy with, I think, the tactics that people use to get the no vote. That's just my opinion. I've paid taxes. I've been in this township for 38 years. I've been a resident in this township. I've been a business owner in this township. I have paid taxes. Every year, my taxes go up. What I understand is township's not setting in really good financial right at this moment. Water bills haven't been collected. Money's going out the door. We're ruled by unions of 3 or 4 people. I've had problems with some of the police officers. I'll say there's some very good police officers in Flint Township. The fire department, I only have praise for them. I've seen the volunteer stop and pull plywood out of the road, bricks. I've seen them come get boxes. They stop with their trucks. I can always tell it's a fireman. Maybe it's not Flint Township all the time, but the firemen should have high praise. Your secretaries have a terrible attitude. I didn't get a bill. And I said, I didn't get this bill till yesterday. And they're like, well, that's not my problem, that's your problem. That is no way to address anybody when they're there. You got them covered with glass like we are the criminals. You've had the appraisers all of your appraisers have been terrible. They have nothing, no commitment to this township whatsoever. They get their paychecks and they're gone. From the very first one, oh, you don't like paying taxes? Move out, go out of business. You don't have to pay them. The next one was, I don't work for you. I don't work for this township. I work for the state of Michigan. Great. The new one you have here, you can't deal with her. Period. Some of the things I wish I would have recorded on my phone because of what she said about Biff Snyder. I'm not happy. And I think that you all need to serve the public. You were voted into office, butts in the seat, work for us, not for yourselves. None of you. You're fiduciaries. And if you don't know what that means, look it up in the Webster's Dictionary.
Is there anyone else who'd like to address the board?
Go ahead, Jeff.
I got it now. Okay. My name is Gerald Roberts, 4487 Lundywood Drive, Swartz Creek, Michigan. I complained about the budget before, and I've talked about the dire state that the township is and how the audit was sugar-coated. I had a question in my mind as to why we would spend $1,300,000 for a ladder truck. I got a couple questions to ask, and I guess according to the thing here, it's supposed to be answered in the next meeting. Did that come right directly out of the budget as a line item? In other words, in police and fire protection? Or were there extra, you know, like a grant or something like that that helped out on that $1.3 million? And I'm gonna switch gears a little bit. I usually come to most of these meetings unless I'm on vacation. But I've been noticing that there's been empty chairs here. And I'm wondering if there's an empty chair there. When I grew up, I usually got paid for the days and the time that I was working. I didn't get paid if I wasn't here or I wasn't working. I'm wondering, do you people pay the trustees and do you pay your people if they're not actually here doing the work on a normal business day? The business days here would be from Monday until Thursday. And I think it's maybe, what would it be, 38 hours a week? And then there's vacations and holidays and prior to an election and everything that they don't have meetings. Maybe we should look into that if we're in the budget or diet fund. If you're not here, you shouldn't get paid. If you're not at one of these meetings, you shouldn't get paid. And I don't know what the trustees make. If they make $7,000 a year or whatever for, you know, being here 2 meetings out of a month or something like that, I don't think that's too much to ask. And I don't think it's too much to ask if you know that you've got a job here and you've been elected to do the job, then to schedule your vacation some other time rather than on a day that you're actually supposed to be here working and doing the township's work. It just mystifies me as to how this thing has gone. In other words, like entitlement. There's no entitlement for me. Do I make extra money? I'm on a fixed income. I'm get a pension. I don't get extra pay. I'm on a fixed income, but yet my taxes keep on going up, just like Mr. Stiff's taxes go up. So, come on, people. Let's start getting back and start learning and working for the people here that are paying your wages. And give us an honest day's work, would you? Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to address the board?
Dave Huffman. I have a couple of things too I think that we ought to address, and it's becoming more and more relevant to me as I make some travels around the township. I've lived in the township for 50 years. I grew up on the south part of town. I live on the northwest of town now. I know this is a big township, 26 square miles, and there's a lot of problems, but I want to tell you folks, from what I'm seeing now, I'm seeing some of the most disgusting blight and ordinance discrepancies that I think I can ever remember seeing in this township in about the last 10 or 15 years. Folks, it's out of control. And while I know the township is under some budget problems right now, but I would make this recommendation as far as what I'm seeing, as far as the problems of blight in this township. You know, when blight happens, and this township gets a reputation, there's a lot of blight. It affects business, it affects the residential, it affects this whole township. So we're talking a real important issue as far as the township goes here. I would recommend this township board seriously look into the ordinance department and hire 4 part-time, I'm saying part-time, ordinance people to go out in this township and start writing up some of this blight, because it's out of control right now. And it should be addressed, and it is getting worse and worse and worse in this township, and we got to do something about it. That's number one. Number two, I have to concur with Mr. Roberts. I know when my dad was up here on the township board, my dad was a full-time college professor at Kettering. He was also activity in Greater Flint churches, Boy Scouts of America, Kiwanis. He had a lot on his plate. But I will tell you one thing right now, folks. When he ran for office, he took it serious. And when these township meetings were here, he would, like Mr. Roberts says, adjust your schedule around your vacation times. You were elected. You chose to represent the people of this township to do right and do work to benefit the people and the businesses of this township. If you didn't want to do that, you shouldn't have run in the first place. And I'm seeing more and more, like Mr. Roberts says, of absentees all the time. My father never would ever miss a meeting. And it's becoming noticeable. It's becoming noticeable to the public what's going on. It's got to stop. Then one other thing that's on my mind, when we do hire people in this township, and I'm talking full-time, really I guess no matter what it is, part-time, full-time, we have got to have some set policies up here that you list the job, let the public know what's going on, and act accordingly. You just don't decide to do what you want to, go over Robert's Rules of Orders, and start hiring people on your own whims without the whole concurrence of the township board. That's got to stop too. The township has to have a policy. If you don't have a policy, it's a free-for-all. That's the only things I have to say tonight. I think, like I say, my number one concern is for Flint Township. I think the things that I've mentioned tonight can help the township, and I hope this board takes it very, very seriously, because there's a lot of people keeping a close eye on this stuff now. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to address the board? Last time? Anybody? Alrighty, we'll move on. Move on to reports. I don't have a report this evening. Madam Treasurer, do you have a report? Out of order, but that's okay. Alrighty, Madam Clerk, do you have a report this evening?
We have ballots that we've received through June of 11th, and we should be sending out about 2,400 ballots. We're working on the election, getting everything ready, have election inspectors trained, so we're looking pretty good for the election. That's basically it.
Thank you. Do we have any trustee reports this evening? Trustee Burt? Trustee Lee?
I'd like to say a couple things publicly. I'd like to refer to the two gentlemen seated at the table and the young lady. They both, last Friday, put in an extremely strong effort, them and their people, to make sure that the Carmen Ainsworth Parade went off without a hitch. They also made sure the road was safe. They made sure that traffic was stopped and no one was getting in and out. Several years ago, some of you will recall that there was an incident during that parade while the situation was getting underway, and a young lady darted across the street and was hit by an automobile. After that incident, there was several conversations and meetings. I was involved in a lot of them, as I was part of the directive of the student council at the time, and it went into place of what they did this week, of shutting the road down and making sure that there was no access to Vance Lake or Maple from 4 o'clock on, and it worked out very well. And I appreciate that. On the second side, appreciate the chief and his guys at the dance, and trafficking in 250 plus cars lined up out to Linden Road Saturday night. We're going to work on that one as well. It's going to have some discussion on how that can be fixed and made a little better of a piece. And I don't want to take away anything from the chief of the fire department, but I was at his event yesterday. Several of us in this room were, and he'll elaborate on it, but it was awesome. Thank you.
We have pictures as evidence.
Yes, we do.
Chief Salter, do you have a report for us this evening?
Yes, ma'am, I do, thank you. Since our last board meeting, your police department responded to over 1,200 calls. Including that number is 4 shots fired calls, 69 domestic, 67 disorderlies, 39 unknown trouble calls, and 4 persons with a gun call. In addition to all the calls, we made over 155 traffic stops, 83 business checks, and 45 residence checks. As you see in the media too, we had a fatal crash on Saturday, September 24th, 2022. The 24-year-old driver lost her life in the crash. That accident is still under investigation. We are assisted by the Flint Township Fire Department, Michigan State Police, and the Genesee County Sheriff's Office. I do not have anything for the agenda tonight.
Chief Beckley, do you have a report for us this evening?
Yes, ma'am. Since the last board meeting, your fire department has responded to 42 incidents, with their highest call volume day in the last 2 weeks being on the 30th, which was last Friday when we had 7 calls that day. September 2022 stats, we responded to 101 calls total in September. Year to date right now, we're at about 825 calls, which is already past what our 2018 and 2020 year totals were. So our call volume this year is definitely increasing. On the 21st, we responded to a power line down call on Flushing Road between Mill and Linden. We arrived on scene there with the police department. Noticed some tire tracks and some oil going into a Erie direction, and found that there was a vehicle actually in the Flint River that night. The police department and ourselves were out there for several hours trying to, not several hours, but a couple hours trying to figure out what happened, where the occupants were, those kind of things. There was a large telephone pole that was broken off in that incident, so the fire department assisted Consumers Energy for almost 10 hours blocking off that section of the roadway. Well, they were able to replace that pole, get everything back up to where it was safe. As Chief Salter said on the 24th, we assisted the police department in that accident on I-75. On the 26th, we responded to a possible commercial structure fire on Clover Tree Lane. Luckily, the homeowner was able to get the fire extinguished prior to our arrival on that, so minimal damage. We did assist with getting smoke and things like that out of the building. Yesterday, as Trustee Cleese stated, we did have our first ever fire prevention open house at Fire Station 1. It was a huge success. We're guessing we probably had about 300 people attend, give or take. A lot of fun. We had several several people here were there. I even saw some of our elected officials in fire gear yesterday, and there is evidence of that, I believe. Just want to say a thank you to all of the helpers, participants, everyone that helped us out as a real team effort. We're hoping to bring it back next year, bigger and better yet. But thank you to everyone. Trying to get that message out there of fire safety. So we appreciate that. And also, just as a note, October is Fire Prevention Month. Specifically, Fire Prevention Week is next week, October 9th through the 15th. This year's theme is Fire Won't Wait, Plan Your Escape. Just a reminder to make sure that you have exit plans, have two ways out of every room in your home. If you have any questions, feel free to give us a call. Call down here at the fire department. We're more than happy to help you out. There's also a lot of online resources that can help people out if they have any questions. So just a reminder, make sure that your smoke detectors, those batteries are changed, carbon monoxide detectors are installed. If you need one, give us a call, 810-732-4413. We'll come out. They're free of charge. We install them, so you don't have to worry about getting up on a ladder. If you just need them looked at, make sure that they're still operational, give us a call. We'll come out. We'll help you out with that. And we have no items on the agenda this evening.
So at the Crime Watch meeting, which it's community engagement, is that?
Yes.
So that was last Tuesday, and when is that usually? It's the last Tuesday?
The last Tuesday of the month.
At the police department at 6 p.m.?
Yes, ma'am.
So I remember Treasurer Anderson asked Fire Chief about burn permits, and I know you tell us a lot, but I'm gonna ask again because now's the time people are trimming and leaves are falling, and so if you could just remind everybody about the burn permits.
Absolutely. Yep. Make sure that you give us a call before you burn. The burn permit rules are all online on our website. If you have any questions, you're not able to access them, give us a call. We'll go over them with you. Just as a reminder, it's now starting to get a little colder now that we're in fall. Burning leaves in Flint Township is against the ordinance. It's actually against state law as well. So please do not burn leaves. It creates a lot of smoke, a lot of nasty odors, things like that. So please do not burn leaves. Give us a call. Burn permits are issued on a day-by-day basis, depending on the weather, wind conditions, those kind of things. Always make sure that you have a hose or a water supply handy. Just make sure that you're being careful, and the fire has to be attended at all times, so by an adult.
Thank you very much.
By an adult.
Mrs. Tucker, do you have a report for us this evening?
Just a couple things. Trunks and Treats is coming up. We've partnered again with Shea and Genesee County 911 and several of the first responder agencies throughout the county. That will be held on October 30th from 3 to 6. Everybody's welcome to attend. We also just wanted to let everyone know, you probably saw it in the budgets that you saw for the Bristol Road CIA and Beach Road CIA, but they did vote. Both boards voted to add the holiday decorations, so we will have them throughout the township this year.
Thank you. And then you have the items on the agenda.
Yes.
So, A, under reports, we don't have any committee reports this evening. A, under the reports, actually, I think was gonna go under 10, and I'm just gonna ask the fire chief to explain the ISO rating under the its correspondence and informational items.
Absolutely. So ISO is the insurance services office. It's what many insurance companies use to kind of gauge a fire department's response, capabilities. It's almost like a report card for your fire departments. I'm going to take this right off of the letter here, but ISO's Public Protection Classification Program plays an important role in the underwriting process at insurance companies. Most U.S. insurers use this information as part of their decision making when deciding what businesses to write, the coverages to offer, or prices to charge for commercial or personal insurance. So this rating really does play into your insurance rates, or can. It was last done for us in 2017. It's typically on about a 5-year rotation, so they completed our evaluation back in May of this year. Takes a few months to get through the process of all of the approvals that have to happen. Last week we received our results back that will go into effect January 3rd, 2023. And our score, it's a 1 to 10 scale, 1 being the best, 10 being, I won't say the worst, but 10 being the lowest score that you can receive in this. And it's a point-based system. It's out of 105.5 points. 10 points of that is based off of your 911 communications center. 40 points of that is based off of your water supply and your water distribution system in the area, and 50 points of that is based off of your fire department. They look at a lot of different things when it comes to the types of trucks, numbers of them, your training, road miles between fire stations to certain addresses, the number of businesses, buildings, 3 stories and higher in your area. So there's a lot of data that really goes into this. This year we received the same classification that we received in 2017, so we're going to remain a class 5, So we are right in the middle of that map there. And we received 56.47 out of 105.5 points. That is up about 4 points from our 2017 evaluation. And right now, Assistant Chief Rowley and myself are working to come up with a plan of how we can continue to increase these scores and continue to better the fire department, and how we can provide that while trying to increase these scores to try to provide better ratings in the future. So there'll be some more information that comes in the future, but that's where we're at right now.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
So that was included in your board packet. If you have any questions about that, don't hesitate to reach out to Chief Beckley.
Can I ask?
There's a lot of information in there, so please, if anyone has any questions, I'll be more than happy to go over it with you.
Chief, one thing if I may. If our ISO rating is better, obviously, and increases much better, and I know this is not a dialogue, but there are gentlemen and ladies in the audience that this would greatly impact them as far as their insurance rates. Am I correct that they could possibly be at a better situation if our ISO was higher and we were in a better look? Is that correct?
It could, yes, yep. I don't know what the exact impact would be, and every insurance company is going to utilize that information differently. Some may not decide to utilize that information at all, and others may rely heavily on that. But according to ISO and the documentation that we have, and I know when I shop my home insurance, they always ask where's the closest fire station and all of that stuff. There's definitely the potential there to decrease insurance rates and decrease those things with the better our scores are in time. That's correct. Yes, sir.
Any other?
Just a quick question. I know there's been conversations about the new fire truck that's coming in with the ladder, and I know you explained how critical it is for us to have our own. And I think you mentioned at staff meeting that some of that went into the rating, that we cannot continue to use our neighbors.
That's correct. That's correct. So yes, they do break down the different numbers for fire engines, ladder trucks, all of those kind of things, and we are scored very poorly when it comes to the ladder truck area. I'm working right now with ISO. They have some scenario-based things that we can kind of dialogue back and forth and see what the scores impact will be if we were to add different pieces of apparatus, move fire stations around, increase staffing, decrease staffing. There's a lot of different scenarios that we can play there. So I am working with them to see what that actual impact would be. That is not reflected in our current score. They're not able to score that until it's actually here in service, and they're able to see that. So that should be reflected in our next evaluation. But the conversations that I've had with them are leaning towards we will definitely increase in those points when that ladder truck is here and placed in service. Mm-hmm.
That's a good question. So just to answer a question that was raised, the fire truck was purchased with grant dollars. 50% of the cost of the fire truck was purchased with grant dollars, ARPA funds.
ARPA funds. Correct.
And the rest of it came out of the fire equipment millage.
That's correct.
So,
yep.
Thank you very much.
It was, as the question was asked, how was it taken care of? How was it managed? Was the number effectively used? And we looked at those ARPA dollars the best we possibly could, and this was a good way to use them and buy something that was very, very, very beneficial for our community and not impact us, if you will, in our back pocket in that dramatically. And one other thing, Brett made some between him and Chief Salter, they started this a long time ago, but the opportunity to pay for it with more of the money up front, we saved an awful lot of money at the end. So numbers being thrown out of $1.3 million and some other these, those are not actual. We're below $1 million is what it, wasn't it, finally?
It was just over, the original price was $1,033,000, I believe, was right about in there, and then we received about a $25,000 prepayment discount by using the ARPA funds and the fire equipment millage funds. Brought the total price down to, I don't have the exact number, I believe it was about $1,007,000 was the actual price for that truck.
And dressed out the right way and taken care of.
So as far as the ARPA funds are used, there's still funds available for to use, but we've got a lot of it planned out. Majority of that went to the police and fire department. So, and then also with those special assessments that were done last year, 10 roads, 2 roads still to be done. We'll be using some of the ARPA funds to pay the township's portion.
So the ARPA dollars went to police, fire, and roads. We're not done yet.
And if you haven't, the J. Austin Parkway is under construction, and it has a one-way going north, if I'm not mistaken. So one lane, one way going north. So if you're going that direction, plan your route, because it's in place right now, and it's, again, ARPA dollars and making those roads better.
Alrighty, so we move. Yes, please.
First of all, I want to say to Chief Beckley that with the new leadership that you have given this department, I have no doubt that those numbers and the points will come up, because you're moving it in the right direction.
Thank you.
Good call.
Thank you
Yes.
for your support. Without the board support, we couldn't do what we're doing. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. We move on to payment of bills, Madam Treasurer.
Yes, trustees should have received copies of the invoices and disbursements via email. We have invoices in the amount of $1,900,000. I'm gonna back that up. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the invoices in the amount of $1,949,595.54 as authorized by our purchasing policy, and to acknowledge the disbursements in the amount of $15,405,266.60 for a grand total of $17,354,862.14 for the invoices and the disbursements.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Are there any questions for Madam Treasurer?
Madam Treasurer, could you, just for clarification, so, because we're talking about the numbers across the board in the community, and for somebody to hear us talk to the effect of, oh my gosh, we just paid out $17,354,862.14. Could you take maybe 1 minute and explain pass-through? So
Yes.
they see what's going,
Yes.
what that number is?
Yes, so on the invoices, that is actual dollars that we're spending for purchases or contracts and those kind of things. That's the 1.9 million. When we talk about this $15 million that went out as disbursements, those are all the property taxes that we have taken in. We're collecting for all those entities that you see on your tax bill, your Michigan State, the airport, all of those different,
Schools,
the list, all the
districts.
different schools. And so as soon as that money comes in, we have 10 days to get it back out and get it to where it belongs. We're collecting on their behalf, and so when you hear those high numbers, it's tax season. We're taking in all those dollars, so it's going in as a pass-through and back out to those entities that we collect on their behalf.
Any
That
other
just- I think
questions?
that helps to,
Yeah.
may-
you.
maybe clarify.
So if there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, roll call please on the motion to pay the invoices in the amount of $1,949,595.54 with the pass-through, let's see, the disbursements in the amount of $15,405,266.60.
Trustee Vert?
Yes.
Treasurer Anderson?
Yes.
Supervisor Miller?
Yes.
Trustee Klee?
Yes.
And Clerk Triplett, yes.
Who seconded that?
Monia did.
Okay, thank you.
Alrighty, we're on to new business. Action item A. We have a public hearing for John P. O'Sullivan for an IFT. Tracy, did you want to say anything before we open that up?
Julie is here from John P. O'Sullivan Distributing, if you have any questions for them. I can give you a brief overview. These are both for basically one project that they're doing on two different parcels. One is the expansion and some remodeling that's taking place at 4047 where they now exist. And the other is across the street at 4056 Marketplace where they will be building new facility over there. So they are expanding, and we're glad they were able to work things out with the county and with us, and able to stay in our community and not have to go elsewhere. So that's a great thing. So we have to have the public hearing. This is for the industrial facilities tax exemption certificate. They both properties already have an industrial development district, so they only require the information that was in your packet to be signed and sent to the state treasury if it's approved by you this evening.
So we'll open up the public hearing. I have the time of 7:34 p.m. If you'd like to speak at this public hearing, we'd ask that you give us your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes to address the board. And you wanted to come up?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Julie Rayhoot. I'm a representative for John P. O'Sullivan. And we're pretty excited to be able to work with Tracy and the Economic Development Committee and so forth to be able to stay in Flint Township. We're looking at taking our current facility and adding an additional 35,000 square feet. Business is expanding, which is really exciting because, you know, times are a little rough right now, but we have looked at new avenues and brought on new products and new innovative things coming to the beverage world. It allows us to retain the 130 employees that we currently have and add additional employees. We also are going to take that and do some green initiatives. We have been working with a lot of local contractors and businesses to make this happen. So we're pretty excited about that. That would be our current facility. And then the owners bought the property across the street too, and I think we were here with you guys a few months back to talk about that. We now have new plans in development to put another 35,000 square foot building across the street. Again, bringing more jobs. We want it to be a safe working environment for all the people. And really, you know, a go green is a big thing for us now. Anything that we can do to, you know, save and be value added to the community and the environment is kind of where we're at. So we ask that you consider, you know, approving this and allowing us to continue to move forward with these projects.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak during the public hearing for the IFT for John P. O'Sullivan at 4047 Marketplace? Buddy. Oh, one more time. Anybody like to speak during the public hearing? And I don't see anybody, so at 7:36 we'll close the public hearing. And we move on to action item B is the industrial facilities tax exemption certificate for 4047 Marketplace. Would someone like to make a motion?
Madam, before that motion, can you tell me, I'm just trying to clarify, out of the A, B, C, D, we're taking action on
B.
Just B, not D?
B and D.
B and D?
We're doing
They're
both.
two separate, yeah, they're two
right.
separate properties. They had to do them in separate IFTs because the parcels are separate.
They're
So we're gonna
across the
still
street
have a
from
public
us.
hearing for the second property. So
Yes.
this is for
Okay.
4047
Okay.
Marketplace.
Okay, thank you. I just needed that clarification.
We have a motion from anyone?
Yes, I make a motion that we move forward with the industrial facilities tax exemption certificate as outlined in our packets.
Is there a second to the motion? Is there any questions or discussion? At our last meeting, when we set the public hearing, we were grateful, who was here from the?
Sean.
Sean, we're very grateful that you've chosen to stay here and to expand. That speaks volumes. Thank you very much. So if there's no further discussion, we'll do a roll call. Madam Clerk, roll call please on the motion to approve the industrial facilities tax exemption certificate for 4047 Marketplace for John P. O'Sullivan Distributing.
Treasurer Anderson,
Yes.
Supervisor Miller,
Yes.
Clerk Triplett, yes, Trustee Clee,
Yes.
and Trustee Burt.
Yes.
Thank you.
So now we'll open up the public hearing for the IFT for John P. O'Sullivan at 4056 Marketplace. The time is 7:38 p.m. If anyone would like to speak during the public hearing, you can come to the podium and give us your name and address, and you have 3 minutes, and I don't see anybody moving. One last time, anybody want to speak during the public hearing? It's 7:38 and we'll close it. So, action item D is for the IFT certificate for 4056. Would someone like to make a motion?
Anderson moved that we approve the industrial facilities tax exemption certificate for 4056 Marketplace for John P. O'Sullivan Distributing, as outlined in our packets.
Is there a second to the motion?
Who would second that?
Any questions, discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call please.
Supervisor Miller,
Yes.
Clerk Triplett, yes, Trustee Clee,
Yes.
Trustee Burt,
Yes.
Treasurer Anderson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Action item G is request to update the signature card for Community Development Block Grant Program.
Anderson moves that we request approval to update the signature card for the CDBG program as outlined in our packets.
Is there a second to the motion?
Support.
Any questions or discussion?
Yes, whose name is on it and who are we switching? I forgot about that. I don't think maybe I missed it if I didn't see it I was reading it yesterday again.
Kathy and Angie are still on it.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. So
And
we've
so-
gotta swap those out to be Anya and Tracy? Okay.
No, there's more. Lisa and Kevin and I think me. What was my name on it?
Right, but I'm saying we're taking off those two and adding these two.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically.
That's what I was, yeah, I wanna make sure that was.
Alrighty. You made the motion. Was there a second? Did you second that, Tom?
I did.
No, Barb did, down at that end.
Any other questions?
I'm good.
All those in favor of updating the signature card for CBDG program signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? That passes. Action item H is to request to hire a part-time code enforcer. And we don't have any right now. We wanted to get approval from the board before we went looking for someone to take that position. And I don't know, maybe we should ask for two.
Or more.
We have one at this point. So a motion would be in order to move forward.
I'll move so that we can get to discussion. Cleve would move that we accept the opportunity to search for a part-time, at least one part-time code enforcement officer at this point in time.
Is there a second to the motion?
Support.
Questions?
Go ahead.
Oh, you go
No,
ahead.
I'm still writing. Go ahead.
I'll wait.
Nope, you're good. Ladies first.
I would just like to ask that the job be posted and interviews taking place. And I'm assuming it's, I know the pay rate would be as what we're currently paying for.
And one is budgeted right now in the budget, but not two. I mean, two. There's one working here already. Another one is budgeted, so there's only budgeted for one more person, not to hire two new people. So just one right now.
That's my only recommendation. Recommendation is that we go with the policy, the
Yep.
job be posted, we'll have an interview team, and just like we did for, the position in the Treasurer's Department.
I want them to be certified,
Whatever you need them to be.
trained,
Yeah, whatever you need them to be.
exactly what they're doing.
What certification is there for a code enforcement officer? Is there one?
Yeah.
There are,
have to look into it.
there are requirements that are out there, yeah. I wrote 3 Ps.
Is Julie certified?
I don't think so. She's sworn in, but I don't think she's certified. I don't know.
There are guidelines.
But I know
to
that
follow.
we've done things differently for full-time people than we have for part-time people, because the part-time people, we haven't posted for the position or interviewed them. We do that for the full-time, who are gonna be here with benefits for a long time.
I was just responding to
Yeah, I understand.
Trustee Burt.
Alrighty.
For
I'm up.
certifications, and I wanted to know what the certification, so I guess then, can we ask that maybe before it's posted, can we look at the job posting in 2 weeks? Is that gonna put things back too much? We can bring the job posting to the board, or at least the personnel committee, so that we can review the job posting and what qualifications before it's posted.
Yeah, we'll have to pull them up. I think that,
I'm
yeah,
confused.
A job description that we post with, the personnel committee would like to review that before it's
I
gone
think
out.
you should talk to the building official and have him be a part of that conversation since he's the expert on it.
He won't get voted in unless he has it for us, is all I'm asking.
we'll
But
get
that's who
that.
you would talk to, wouldn't you think?
If he's here, I would.
He doesn't have
Okay,
to
so-
be here right now.
Hey, hold on, hold.
Yeah, we've got a motion and a second. Are there any further questions?
Yes. I've got 3 words right here, policy, process, and procedures. So to look at that and to look at the guidelines, and I want to piggyback off both what the two at my far left just stated. Yes, I agree, we need to follow the procedures, make sure the policy is looked at, but most of all, that individual or individuals down the road that we look at for these positions the director of the building department is going to be their immediate supervisor, he has to be involved in every action that goes on, being the fact that is able to put in the information necessary to say, this individual is and has the right sense of mind to be going out and doing those inspections and doing the code enforcement, and has a good rapport with the community, so that my dialogue with a certain individual is not to be a total jerk, but to go out and have an open conversation. And those kind of conversations have to be had before anyone goes out representing Flint Township to anyone in this community, in the respect that they have to be willing to listen, process, and respond. And we've got policies and processes in place, so as long as we're following all the guidelines, so we're not having any issues with this type of a situation, again, I'm all for this.
Yes, and Tom, we have, all of our interviews have included either the building official,
Department heads.
building department head, or somebody with that expertise, as well as with the personnel department.
I realize that, but
We've had them all that way,
I'm being
so
emphatic,
we're not asking that to
we're
change
not,
it
I'm just
anyway.
reiterating, we're not circumventing anyone, no, not at all.
Alrighty. We
I'll
got a
even come
motion
and
and a
hang out.
second? Are we done discussing, or I don't wanna cut anybody off?
Yes, we are gonna hire this, we'll do the one part-time. I would like us in the future to be able to look at the budget to see if we can afford additional I've always asked for a dozen, and we haven't gotten there yet, but I would like more code enforcement. Yes, right now, Julie's not going out right now, right? She hasn't been, doesn't seem, she doesn't leave anymore, so.
Yeah, she was out.
Yeah.
I've gone out with her.
So
So,
we know that's the only time I think she's going out, but so if we need to get more, we can have that conversation at budget time for the start of the year.
Well, I stated one at this point in time,
Yes.
and there is money in that budget for additional people, whether it be a full-time person or not, and if that has to be broken down to two more, that full-time dollar budget that's there can be broken down to two more part-time individuals to put 4 bodies on the street, so that and the money's there. They're not full-time, they would be part-time, they wouldn't be receiving benefits, they're retirees, however we look at it. But the idea is, and the comment's been made a couple of meetings, and comments have been chirped at every one of us afterwards and during the weeks, the more we can be out there, the more eyes that are out there, the more appealing it is for this community to be someplace to come stay and thrive. So the more the merrier.
Thank you.
In that department.
A clean community is a viable community.
Absolutely.
well, speaking of clean, you had people go out and clean the freeway ramps, and they did an excellent job, and it looked really good, and within 2-3 days, people just roll their window down and throw their trash outside the window. We've got people who don't care about their properties, and it's disturbing to the neighborhood, it's disturbing to the neighbors. And we recognize the problem. I hear you loud and clear, Dave. I just,
It was me.
Kevin,
Yeah.
Dave was talking about light,
Oh,
but
you're
anyway.
talking- Sorry to interrupt.
Just, there's a lot out there, and we are on it, and we can run a report and show the number of violations that have been given, and the number of tickets, and the number of people we take to court, and the cost that it takes to do property maintenance. So it's not like there's not a lot of work to do. There's too much work to do. Anyhow,
We
it is.
also need to take more of those tickets to court, not have a limit.
Exactly.
Madam Clerk, roll call please on the
Okay.
motion to hire a part-time code enforcer officer.
We were shut down.
Triplet, yes. Trustee Queen.
Yes, ma'am.
Trustee Burt. Yes. Treasurer Anderson.
Yes.
Supervisor Miller.
Yes.
Oh, wow, we all agree. Thank you.
So, the next meeting is October 17th at 6 PM, and if there's no further,
We're closed on Monday. Are we?
What?
Columbus Day?
No, we're not. No,
I think
we're
that
not.
they took that out.
We're not, no, we're open.
It's on their calendar, so I'm
It's
not for sure.
Indigenous
Are we
People
or-
Day.
That's one they gave up.
Yeah, get it right. Indigenous people. I have to work, you guys have to be there.
Monday?
You know
I
what?
thought the only one that gave up was President's Day.
I think they only gave
Yeah.
up President's Day. I think we're closed on Monday. We should, I didn't see it on the calendar, but I think we may be.
Wait a second.
These guys never close.
Be the 17th.
We're here.
It's like 7-Eleven, right? The
Speedway is
17th.
now owned by 7-Eleven, by the way. We're still in session,
The
ladies and gentlemen.
17th is not Columbus Day, is it?
No,
Oh,
no.
I think she's saying next Monday we're closed.
Next month, this coming Monday.
Oh, no.
Our next meeting's gonna be October 17th
Yeah.
at 6.
I know, but are we closed Monday?
I don't know that answer.
It'll have to get posted. Right now, the 17th
If there's no
is
further
all we're
business
concerned
and without objection, we'll call the meeting adjourned.